Hello, good evening. My name is Catherine, and I work with SCB Housing, and this is the information session for the 10 affordable rental units at 1180 Boylston in Brookline. So the purpose of this session is to give you a little bit of background information on the available apartments. I'll also cover the application eligibility and lottery process for the affordable housing program, and then what to expect after the lottery is run. So if you have any questions during this session, you're encouraged to either type them into the chat in Zoom, or you can unmute yourself and ask the question. When you came into this meeting, you were automatically muted just to minimize any outside noise during the presentation. This is a live session, so it's being recorded and it's going to be posted to SCB Housing's YouTube channel later on tonight for anyone who's interested that wanted to have a look at it. If you have any questions after tonight, or if you're watching this after the fact on our YouTube channel, you can contact us at info@scbhousing.com. That's our email, or at this number as well. So just for some background information on who we are, so SCB Housing, we are an off-site affordable housing consultant group. So we're not on-site, we're not the on-site management team, but we've been hired by the developer to market these affordable units and conduct this information session. We'll also be the ones collecting and reviewing lottery applications to determine an applicant's eligibility and to run the lottery. So in the initial phases of the process, SCB Housing, we are your main point of contact rather than the management office. But then further along in the process, the on-site management team or the leasing office at 1180 Boylston will take over as your main point of contact. So there's a few steps in the process, and the first is applying for the lottery. You will submit a lottery application and self-report your income and your assets and all the household members. And you'll submit that either using the online application form, which I'll talk about in a minute, or you can submit it as a paper application, which I'll mention as well. And so SCB Housing will review that application, answer any questions you might have on the process before the lottery is run. And then the second step in the process, you'll be in touch with the leasing office over at 1180 Boylston, and they'll be doing a lease screening for the top households on the waiting list. So that's separate from the screening that SCB Housing will be doing for the program and for the lottery. And their lease eligibility screening is going to be the same for market rates renters and renters who are renting an affordable unit. And that might include credit check, background check, rental history check, that sort of thing, landlord references. And so that's the second step in the process. Then you'll be referred back to SCB Housing to do your program eligibility screening, which includes submitting, verifying information to confirm your income, assets, and all of that. Because to get into this lottery, you don't need to submit any pay stubs with your lottery application. It will be after the fact that that if you're one of the top households on the waiting list, you'll need to do that. So to get into the lottery, it's just that lottery application, and then later on in the process, you'll need to confirm your income with pay stubs and benefit statements and anything like that. So if you haven't already, we encourage you to go to our website. It is scbhousing.com, and you would select under the Affordable Housing Opportunities page, you would select I want to rent. And then there is a page specific to 1180 Boylston that you'll see. And if you click on that, you'll be taken to a page specific to this property with downloadable versions of the application, the information packet, as well as the jot form QR code that you can see on your screen right here. So this, well, not the QR code, but the link here, and then there is a QR code as well on the application itself, the paper application. We do encourage you to complete the application online because it is going to be the best way to ensure that your application is received right away. If for any reason you would prefer a paper application, you can do that as well. You can either give us a call or email us to send one to you in the mail, or you can print or download the PDF version of the application that is on our website as well, and you can fill it out electronically and email it back to us. So if you do choose to submit it online, though, once you hit submit, you're going to get an automatic confirmation email that's going to say we received your application. Later on in the process, so after we've reviewed your application, about 1 to 2 weeks after you submit it, you'll get a more personalized email from us, and if you're eligible, you'll get more information on the lottery and all of that. So whatever way is easiest for you to get the application into us, again, you can complete it online, you can scan it or email it to us, you can send it by regular mail. You just want to get it in before the due date, which is May 18th at 2 p.m. And the reason it says 2 p.m. is because that online application is going to be disabled after 2 p.m., so it will not be active anymore. If you are trying to click on it, it will not let you apply after 2. So just make sure to keep that in mind if you haven't applied yet. And again, you don't need any supporting documentation yet, but later on in the process, you may be asked to submit verifying income if you're one of the top households on the waiting list. You don't need to be a resident of Brookline to apply for this lottery. There are going to be some units that have waiting lists with local preference, meaning that households who live full-time in Brookline, work full-time in Brookline, or have children going to Brookline public schools are going to have priority on those waiting lists, but I'll talk more about that, and it shouldn't dissuade anyone from applying who doesn't have that priority, because again, it's only for certain units. So it is anticipated that the first available units at 1180 Boylston are going to be available for occupancy this summer. So not long after the lottery takes place and all your required applicant screening. So there shouldn't be much of a delay between finishing the process, the screening process, and being able to rent one of these units. So just for some more background information, or some more kind of general information about the property, there's 4 one-bedroom apartments, and each of those have 1 bathroom. They are 999 square feet, $1,294. There's also, just one second here, I want to make sure, this is our information packet as well. I just want to make sure, yeah. So the 2 bedrooms, on your screen here, it says 1 bathroom for the 2 bedrooms, but that's wrong. So it's 2 bathrooms for these 2-bedroom apartments. So I apologize for that. There's also 6 2-bedroom apartments. They have 2 bathrooms, and the affordable rent is $1,526. 2 of those 2-bedroom apartments have accessibility features. So one of them is considered mobility accessible or disabled accessible, and one of the 2 bedrooms is hearing accessible. So those are 2 separate units. One of them has the hearing impairment features, and the other has the disabled accessible or mobility accessible features. I haven't mentioned this yet, but I want to make sure everybody realizes that this is a age-restricted lottery. So I'm flipping back here to the first slide. At least one household member must be 55 years of age or older to qualify for this lottery. So if everyone in your household is younger than 55, you will not be eligible for this lottery. That's not the case with all affordable lotteries, so just want to make sure that's out there. So in terms of the features in the unit and the community itself, so there's a fitness center on the first floor, there's a community room. All of the units are going to feature a washer dryer, built-in closets, modern kitchen. The utilities that the tenants will pay will be electric heat, cooking, hot water, and electricity. And water and sewer are included in the rent, so those are paid by the owner. Parking is not included with this property. As you might recognize, the parking is at a premium in that area in Brookline, and there are garage parking spaces available to rent for $250 a month, but again, parking is not included in this lottery, or for renters, I should say. Pets are permitted subject to restrictions. Usually there's breed restrictions, and there's a $50 per pet per month fee for those as well. So the affordable rents the affordable units, I should say, at 1180 Boylston have been selected by the owner and were approved by Mass Housing, which is the agency that oversees this affordable housing program. So they've been approved as being representative of the units as a whole, or in the building as a whole, meaning that they're not the affordable units are not the smallest units. They're not all clustered in one area. They're not identifiable as affordable from the outside to anyone walking down the hall. And the affordable rents have been set in accordance with a formula for the program, the affordable housing program, that includes HUD, which is the Federal Housing and Urban Development, their area median income for the Boston Brookline area. The formula has come up with these rents for 50% of the area median income. So these are a little bit lower than some other lotteries. If you've applied to anything else, usually it's 80% of area median income. These rents are set using 50% of area median income. So the rents are a little bit lower. I was just going to ask if anybody had any questions. And so it says here they seem to be stacked up. So
Hi, sorry to interrupt. I'm a little obsessive, and I looked on the full marketing brochure or online site for this particular building and seemed to deduce that the affordable units are mostly stacked up. The one bedrooms seem to be mostly O3s, and the two bedrooms seem to be mostly O8s. And none are on the top sixth floor. Is that not the information you have, or you don't have that information yet?
No, I have the information. Let me take a look because, hold on one second here.
Their marketing stuff could be way out of whack too.
Yeah, I don't think that's correct, just because we have a couple iterations here. Just because Mass Housing would normally not approve stacked units.
That's what I thought.
Affordable units, I should say. So let me just take a look real quick here. Yeah, they're not stacked. So let me see. Bear with me a second here. It's correct that there are no units on, there are no affordable units are on the 6th floor. There are 2 on the 5th floor, 3 on the 4th floor, 3 on the 3rd floor. Two on the 2nd floor. Oh, hold on a minute. Seeing 2 different things here. I have to make this smaller so I'm not getting my pages mixed up. Yeah, what I'm looking at is way accessible. Yeah, I'm gonna have to get back to you on that. I don't see any stacking, but the 6th floor. Yeah, what I'm seeing is we've got 203, 209, 302, 304, 308, 403, 410, 408, 508. So those are stacked. but I'm not 100% sure in looking at this right now that this is the final version. So if you could email info@scbhousing.com, I'll be able to let you know what the actual units are.
Could you repeat that list though for now? I'll look through it and I will follow up with the email.
Yeah, so I'm seeing, I don't know why the first floor isn't showing for me. I think maybe the first floor doesn't have units.
Retail. Sorry.
So 210.
210.
No, scratch that. 203, 209, 302, 304, 308, 403, 410, 408, 503, 508. But again, I'm not sure about that right now. So let me.
No, actually, sorry to keep butting in, but that's actually right on with what I found for the one bedrooms.
Okay.
203, 304, 403, and 30 or 503. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah, send us an email and I'll confirm with the management as well.
Thank you.
Yep.
Sorry to.
No problem. All right. So there's 4 eligibility criteria for the affordable housing program. And the first is that households have to have qualifying income for the program. So that's under 50% of area median income, like I mentioned earlier. So those figures are on your screen right now. So if you're a one-person household, your total household income for the year would need to be at or below $57,900. And that's gross income. So the program requires that we count gross income. So if you're making, less than that because of your take-home pay, unfortunately, it is still the gross income, the amount that's on your paycheck, for example, that we need to use. The second is that households can't own a home upon move-in. So if you own a home now, it must be sold before you started a lease at 1180 Boylston. For this specific lottery, like I said, you have to have a household member who is at least 55 years or older to qualify. And what you also want to keep in mind for eligibility purposes is the household priority is going to be based on household composition. So generally, larger households are going to have priority for the 2-bedroom units. And keep in mind, too, for this lottery, a one-person household can't apply for a 2-bedroom unit unless there is a household member that has a disability, which requires a reasonable accommodation or that extra bedroom. And then the final eligibility criteria, which doesn't come up very often, is on your screen too, that applicants can't have financial interest in the development or be considered a related party by the program. And what a related party is defined as by this affordable housing program is someone who, if you work for the developer, if you work for the management company at the property, you wouldn't be eligible for this lottery. So since these are affordable units, they're being made available to rent at prices that are a lot lower than the market rate units at the property. So for that reason, they're only being made available to households who qualify for the affordable housing program. So that's why we'll be holding a lottery for households who qualify for the affordable housing program, since they will be the only qualified applicants. So the maximum income limits are set by household size, as you can see. 1 person, 2 person, 3 people, 4 people are listed on your screen. And when you're filling out your application, you just want to make sure that you're filling it out showing household income for everyone in the household. So if 1 person is working, you would write their wages. If 1 person is receiving Social Security benefits, you would write those down, and so on. So when you're completing your application, you just want to make sure that you're accounting for all of that. And income for this program is counted as a projection of your income over the next 12 months for all household members. That includes everyone. So if you have, if you have someone in the household who is earning bonuses or overtime. If they earned bonuses or overtime in the last 12 months, we're going to have to assume that they would continue to earn those going forward unless there's some sort of definitive documentation from an employer, for example, that those are not available this year, and that sort of thing. So we'll need to kind of dig further into income for some people if they're self-employed or if they have sporadic income like that. And so again, when you're filling out the application, just make sure you're accounting for everything and you're writing everything down there. There's no minimum income for the affordable housing program. However, most management companies, including the one at 1180 Boylston, they want to make sure that you, as a tenant, whether or not you're renting a market rate unit or an affordable unit, that you can afford the rent. So the management company has set a minimum household income equivalent to 2.5 times the monthly rent. So those amounts are listed on the screen here. So if you're looking to rent a 1-bedroom apartment, your total household income for the year would need to be between $38,800 and $57,900. You'll notice here that it says approximate minimum income and assets. So what that means is it's going to be up to the leasing office at 1180 Boylston as to whether or not your income meets this minimum threshold, because it's not a program requirement. So if you have a total household income of $38,000 or $37,000, for example, but you have some liquid assets that you might be able to access to be able to pay rent, it's possible that they would approve you as during their lease screening, they might approve you as having a adequate income to rent the apartment. Now, if your total household income is even $1 above this maximum income limit, that's different. This isn't an approximate amount. These are the maximum income limits for the affordable housing program. So unfortunately, if you made $58,000 as a one-person household, you wouldn't be eligible for the lottery because you would be considered over income. But there's a little more wiggle room with these approximate minimum incomes. So if you fall somewhere near this, I would encourage you to apply if you're even just slightly lower than it, because the leasing office may determine that you're eligible. The only households who can just completely ignore this minimum income amount are households who have mobile housing vouchers. So if you have a Section 8 voucher, MRBP voucher that you plan to use at the property, you can disregard the minimum incomes because they don't apply to your household. And that's because you're administering agency. So the agency that administers your voucher is going to be paying a portion of your rent. And so just keep that in mind. There's also I should mention there's no asset limit for rental lotteries. So if you are retired, or if you just have a good amount in your savings account, for example, or in the bank, it would not disqualify you from applying for this lottery. Although there's no asset limit, we do still need to collect information related to your assets. So that's because if there's income being generated by your assets, that income needs to count towards your total household income. We will, be asking for statements from checking, savings accounts, CDs, retirement accounts, that sort of thing. All right, so I covered some of the eligibility criteria. Just a reminder again, if you have any questions, let me know. I'll move on to the actual lottery eligibility and just how the lottery will take place. So again, we encourage you to apply if you're interested, get the process started. And we want to mention too that you can apply for more than one unit size. So if you think you'd be interested in both a 1 and a 2-bedroom, you can apply for both, assuming that you're eligible for both. So maybe you are a 2-person household, but you and your spouse, or you and your partner, you would be eligible. Since you're 2 people, you'd be eligible for a 2-bedroom apartment. You just would be a type 1 household, which I'll talk more about in a minute. There's really no downside to applying for both of the unit types if you think you might potentially be interested in them. So just keep that in mind. So you submit the application, SCB Housing, we're going to review the application and contact you if anything appears to be missing or incorrect, so you have a chance to resubmit as necessary. If you're found eligible for the lottery based off of the self-reported income and information that you submit on the application, you're going to be sent an email with your lottery application number. That lottery application number is going to be in the form of a series of numbers. So that's just an anonymous identifier at this point, and it's going to be the number that's drawn in the lottery. So if you were the very first person to be approved for this lottery, your lottery application number would be A.001, for example. That email is also going to confirm whether or not your household indicated that they qualify for local preference. So you will have self-reported on your application if you believe your household qualifies for that preference. And again, that's households who live in Brookline, work for the town, or work in the town, I should say, anywhere in the town, or are a guardian of a child attending Brookline Public Schools. Some of the affordable units at 1180, 7 of them will have local preference, which means that some local preference households will get priority for those units compared to households who don't have local preference. So there's a lot more information on local preference in the information packet. I'm going to pull that up really quickly to show you the waiting list so you have an idea of what they look like. So you can see that there are 3 1-bedrooms and 4 2-bedrooms who will have local preference, and that is, it kind of breaks down here for you how the priorities are categorized for each waiting list. So if you're a type 2 local preference household, you're going to have first priority on this waiting list, and it goes down from there. Households who don't have local preference are still going to have a position on the local preference waiting list. It's a little confusing because that is not very intuitive, but if you look at this, 2-bedroom apartments right here, if you are a type 2 non-local preference household, you still have priority over local preference households who are type 1. And that's because your household type is weighted more heavily or is more important than whether or not you have local preference on this waiting list. So just a heads up on how that is going to play out after the lottery drawing. That email that you get with your lottery application number is also going to confirm the bedroom size you applied for, as well as whether or not you need an accessible apartment. So make sure that you're reviewing that email in detail just to make sure that everything appears correct. If it doesn't, or if something seems off, please email us back and let us know. If at any time during the application process you're found to be ineligible for the lottery, so maybe you're over income, you'll be informed, and you're encouraged, of course, to contact us with any questions. And so again, household type. On your application, you will have indicated whether or not you believe you're a type 1 household or a type 2 household, and SCB Housing will confirm that for you. So in some cases, smaller households can apply for larger units, but in general, larger households, like I mentioned, are going to have priority for over smaller households. So the information packet has a lot more information on the household types, but just be aware that, as an example, a type 1 household, that might be 2 adults who are sharing a bedroom, that household can apply for a 2-bedroom waiting list or a 2-bedroom unit, but all type 2 households are going to have priority over that type 1 household on the waiting list. So just keep that in mind as well. And Denise, you have a question? Oh, you're muted.
That the next lottery, the lottery is the 29th, May 29th at 6, but this says May 28th.
Yes, it's May 20.
Yeah, I'm looking at an email that was sent and it says May 29th. I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, I'm in the information packet now, so I'll be able to confirm. Yeah, it's the 28th. Thank you for letting me know that. So was it the email that you received with your lottery application number?
I screenshot it and I don't have it right now, but I think
That's
it was,
okay.
it was, yeah, it was something like that because
Okay.
I saved it on my phone and I'm looking at it, so.
Yeah, I'll check to make sure. If that's the case, if the email showed May 29th and it's the email that I'm thinking of, then you'll probably get an updated email just to let you know that that was incorrect. So look out for that in the next day or so. I'll pick it up. Yep, thanks for letting me know. And then I see your question here, Peter. How many applications thus far? So I actually looked right before this call, and we had 116 completed applications so far. I don't want that to deter anybody too much because we don't know how many people are actually following through with that, who's interested when the time comes. And of course, Brookline's a sought after area, and there's other options in the area as well. So I think some of these lotteries that are closer to Boston or in that general area are just very popular to begin with, but there's also a lot of applicants who may not follow through in the end. So yeah, the next thing I was going to say is that the lottery will be held on May 28th at 6 p.m. So it will be held via Zoom, just like this, meaning that it's going to be a screen share. You'll be able to see the drawing actually take place. It will be a digital lottery, meaning that I will put the lottery application numbers into a website called random.org, and it will automatically reorder them, and that will be the lottery drawing. So you'll be able to see the results instantaneously. It's a little confusing during the lottery because that's not the final results of the, it's not the final results of the waiting list. The waiting list still needs to be generated after the lottery based off of the results. So what I mean by that is if a type 1 household is drawn first and they've only applied for a 2-bedroom unit, they're not going to be at the top of either of the waiting lists because they don't have priority for the 2-bedroom unit. So you're not going to know a whole lot. You can see where your lottery application number was drawn if you're watching on the night of the lottery. But again, you'll know later on, either later that evening or the next morning when I send out the waiting lists as an attachment to an email. You'll know then where you actually fall on the waiting list. So in general, it is more beneficial if your number is drawn early in the lottery, but it isn't necessarily the deciding factor as to whether or not you'll be moving forward in the process. And I want to mention too, sometimes people get confused about, there's 10 units, you're going to draw 10 application numbers. The answer to that is no. We think that, when we think of lottery, sometimes we think that that would be the case, but the purpose of this lottery is to draw every application number so that we are able to establish an order of priority for the waiting lists. So again, if you're drawn, later in the lottery and you are further down the waiting list, in the end, it will depend on how many households ahead of you drop off the waiting list, either because they're ineligible in some way or they're no longer interested. So there's still kind of a few factors at play, even after the drawing itself. All right, and so following the lottery, you're going to get that lottery application, you're going to get the email. You're going to find your lottery application number on the waiting list that are sent to you. And then you'll know kind of if you're going to be one of the households that is invited forward to the next step in the process, which is to apply for a lease with the leasing office. So you'll do that lease screening with the leasing office if you're one of the top households. So if you're lease approved by the leasing office, you'll then move on to your final program eligibility screening with SCB Housing. And so that's the point in the process where, because remember, you haven't submitted your pay stubs or benefit statements or tax returns, bank statements. That's when you'll be invited to provide all of those documents. And that's confirming whether or not you're eligible for the affordable housing program. And if you're the top person on one of these waiting lists, you'll have the first chance to reserve one of the affordable units. And that would mean, if you're the first person on the 2-bedroom waiting list, you will get to choose from any of the affordable 2-bedroom apartments. And then the person who's positioned in the second position on the waiting list would have the second selection of the units that are left, and so on down the list. And of course, you can tour the apartments if you're one of those top households with the leasing office. They'll be able to show you the units at that point once you're lease eligible. And then once you're leased, you are done with screenings until your lease renewal date. So say you sign a lease for July 1st this year. We hope that you love the unit, you want to continue living there beyond the first year of the lease. If you do, you need to recertify your income with the leasing office prior to your lease renewal date. So you sign a lease for July, they might be doing their recertifications around this time next year. So you would need to confirm your information at this point ahead of that lease renewal. If your income has increased and is now above the 50% of area median income, that's fine. I should go to the next screen here. As long as your household income doesn't now exceed 140% of the current year's area median income, you would still qualify for the affordable rent. So as a example, a household of 2 would qualify for this lottery at 50% of the area median income, which means your income is at or below $66,200 a year. That same family can make up to $92,680 at their time of the recertification to remain eligible to rent the affordable apartment at the affordable rent amount. So there's a little bit of wiggle room there for anyone who's, expecting to be earning more next year. It doesn't mean that you no longer can either live in the affordable unit or pay this affordable rent amount. So a little bit of a buffer there. That's about all I wanted to get through from a lot of this information is in the information packet. Again, I'm going to look into the final unit selections. It's possible that there's some stacking because of the way that the units are situated in the building. I'd have to take a closer look again to remind myself if, the only 2 bedrooms, or 2 bedrooms just in general, how the building is designed or stacked in 1 bedrooms and so forth. So I'll take a look at that and get back to you, Peter, and anyone else who is interested in learning about that. Another question, hold on. Will they place unit selection, all the local preference people first before any open waiting list people? So let me go back to the information packet to better explain. So the waiting lists are on page 11. And so if the leasing office is filling the 1-bedroom apartments, what they're going to do is they're going to fill, I think the answer to your question, I believe, is yes, to the way it was asked. So they're going to fill 3 1-bedroom apartments from this waiting list, the local preference waiting list first, and then they're going to move on to the general waiting list to fill the remainder of the local preference, of the 1-bedroom units. Same with the 2 bedrooms. First, they're going to fill 4 units, and then they're going to move on to these accessible units first, or second, I should say. So yeah. Any other questions? We encourage you to get your application in to get the process started. If anyone's watching this after the fact and has questions for us, just a reminder that you can get in touch with us whenever at info@scbhousing.com, or if you'd prefer to call, you can do that as well. And just a reminder that the online application, the link is on our website, and then it's also on pretty much all the materials you're going to see. There's a link there and a QR code to direct you to it if you're interested in applying online. And again, the deadline's May 18th, so a little bit less than a month. left to apply. And yeah, any other questions, please let us know. Thank you all for your questions and attendance. And I will also look into that lottery date. So Denise, thank you for bringing that up. And if anyone has already applied and received a application number, you may get an updated email with just confirming that the lottery date is actually the 28th. You'll have the same lottery application number though, the number won't change. All right, thanks everyone. Have a good night. Appreciate the attendance.